We are back recapping week 2 winners and losers. We made this video last week, so you can still check it out, and some of the stuff is still relevant. We're going to try and not repeat, back-to-back weeks. There are a couple in here that are repeated from last week, and we're not really focusing on necessarily. We're looking at maybe some guys that you don't realize were winners or losers, especially on the winner side, and then some usage stuff on the loser side rather than just, maybe just a poor game for your studs. So, but speaking of studs and poor game, we're going to start off negative this week. Tyreek Hill, 3 catches, 24 yards. I think for the most part, if this happened under normal circumstances, we're not going to really talk about this. You're going to start Tyreek Hill, and you're still probably going to start Tyreek Hill, but it's the Tua injury that really puts a damper on things, and for Tyreek, for Waddle, for this entire offense. So how are you approaching Tyreek Hill? Are you still you're starting him for the next couple of weeks and you'll reevaluate after that?
Yeah. I mean, you got to start him. I mean, it's just he's one of the top 5 to 10 fantasy players. You can't sit him down. I mean, he still could bust out with a big game. All it takes is a couple of long plays and stuff like that, which he's totally capable of making. So, hopefully Skylar Thompson can get him the damn ball. So
they did just sign Tyler Huntley as well off the Ravens practice squad. So we've seen Huntley with the Ravens before. I'm not sure how good that will be for the receivers and stuff like that. But I do have some splits over the last 3 years with Tyreek Hill with and without Tua. So he has about a half a target less per game, from 10.5 to 10. About a little bit less than 1 reception less per game, 7.1 to 6.4. The receiving yards dipped from 107 with Tua per game to 74. So still really good per game. He hasn't caught a touchdown without Tua. This is 5 games, by the way. No touchdowns without Tua, so we'll see with that. Still put up 15.5 full PPR points, 12.2 half PPR points. So about 6-7 less points per game, which is significant, but still start worthy for sure. So it sucks to see, but they're going to figure out how to get the ball in his hands. Absolutely. So we'll get to the negative. Josh Jacobs, we were talking about this game right before we clicked record. 32 carries, 151 yards. What'd you say they passed the ball 14 times?
Yeah, this is a positive. You said negative.
Okay. Sorry, I meant positive.
Yeah, so everybody understands.
Yeah. No, yeah, they only passed it 14 times. So, the Packers won the game. It did come down to the last throw, essentially. So they kind of dominated it in that sense, but did come down to the last game. I don't know how long Jordan Love's going to be out. It seems like he potentially could be back soon, but maybe 1 or 2 more games. And I don't think they're going to rush it, especially because they just won, So now they're 1-1, and they can afford to maybe wait another week. If this is how the offense is going to run with Malik Willis, then Josh Jacobs is going to be a smash play for the next 2-3 weeks. Now, defenses will catch up a little bit, and they'll learn how to stop it. But until we see that, Josh Jacobs is going to be awesome.
This is why the Packers got Josh Jacobs. Just, he was capable of doing this. He had a year with the Raiders there a couple of years ago, where he was carrying the ball quite a bit. He had quite a few touches and carries in the game. So 32 carries is quite a bit, though.
Yep. No catches, no touchdowns. So his actual fantasy week wasn't necessarily great. It was like 13.1 points, 15. I think he fumbled. So I think he had 13 points, RB20. But all he needs is to fall in the end zone, and then you're looking at a top 12 week easily. So the volume is there. Jamar Chase. And we try to be a balance of good and bad, but we do have a little bit more bad players in terms of just performances this last week. Jamar Chase, 4 catches, 35 yards. So now we're looking at, 2 weeks. His first 2 weeks, he has 10 catches and 100 yards and no touchdowns over the last 2 weeks. Not what we drafted him to be. Are you worried? Do you think it's just he didn't really practice in training camp, he's getting his legs under him type of thing, or is this a concern to you?
Yeah, definitely. You can nail it and say, if you say that his contract negotiations and his sit-in in training camp is affecting his performance on the field, that nails it right there. You can tell. This is a young guy, 23, 24 years old, whatever he is. And he's obviously, he's all pissed off at the Bengals. The Bengals, screwed me and all this other crap. And, he's, I think week one, he kind of stunk too, or he wasn't that good. So,
yeah, 6 for 62. So that's
well, that's not bad. Okay. But there's
not what you drafted. That's for sure.
No, that's not. That's the thing on where people draft this guy. He's right there at the top of the list, and that's too bad. I'm glad I didn't draft him in any of my leagues. So,
yeah, the whole feeling around the Bengals is just a little weird. Everything from the Burrow potential wrist injury, which I don't think you kind of put that to rest a little bit this week. But starting off 0-2, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase wanting contracts, stuff like that. I will say that Jamar Chase had 2 tough matchups. He had Christian Gonzalez, second-year cornerback for the Patriots, who's kind of look emerging to be really good. I know Metcalf scored on him. I think he fell down on that play, but he's looking like a pretty good one of those. He's going to shut down your number one wide receiver. And then the Chiefs kind of notoriously shut down your best weapon, which is Jamar Chase for this team, especially without T. Higgins. A lot easier to shut down Chase when T. Higgins isn't out there. So still starting Chase. Don't worry about it for now, but it is, antenna up a little bit. Now, this is a guy we did talk about last week, J.K. Dobbins, but I do want to bring him back up. 17 carries this time, so better than 10. 130 yards again, a touchdown again. He also caught the ball. The reason why I wanted to bring this up again, because I was still slightly hesitant even after week one, because it all came on 2 carries, and then the usage wasn't great wasn't necessarily great for him. But now what the usage is, the biggest thing is he got the goal line carries. Gus Edwards last week got the 1 goal line carry. J.K. Dobbins got the 2 goal line carries this week. And if he's going to get that, basically he's splitting early downs with Gus Edwards. He's getting the goal line and he's getting the third down stuff. That's what we want. If we're not going to have a workhorse, we want the guy who's getting the goal line and the third down while splitting early down stuff. Let Gus Edwards get his 10, 15 carries a game. J.K. Dobbins will get his 10, 15 carries a game. He'll get the value touches. If they're going to pass the ball to the running back, he's going to catch maybe a couple passes. I'm sure he'll have 30, 35 catches this year. And so, yeah, it's just more of a, not only did he produce, but the usage was there. This is looking like a huge steal. So anything you want to add to J.K. Dobbins?
No, this was always, this guy was always in the back of my mind, but two major leg injuries to a running back, are hard to ignore. An ACL a couple of years ago, and then the Achilles, and not everybody comes back from that stuff, and everything else, and he has. So
yeah.
If he's on your damn waiver wire in your league,
gosh,
I'm not
please.
saying, yeah, I still wouldn't ignore Gus Edwards either. Things can change. So
yeah, things can change, and Dobbins can get hurt again.
Yes.
The reason why we're worried about it is not that we ever doubted he was good, but is his leg and knee and Achilles up to the strength where he can handle this for 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks? It's only been 2 weeks, so he could easily get injured. And Gus Edwards, to your point, had 18 carries himself, so more carries than Godwin, Dobbins. So Jerome Ford, I put as a bad. This is one of my bads that I added to the list. He was actually on our good last week because he had 75% of the snaps, and he put up good numbers. I'm pulling it up right now. He had last week 12 carries, 44 yards, a touchdown, 6 catches, 25 yards. while starting 75% of the snaps. And I said, well, if he's going to get that, he's going to be awesome. But I was a little bit hesitant again because, Stefanski and in his iteration of the Browns, even when he had a prime Nick Chubb, he was only having him out there 55, 60% of the time at best. Nick Chubb had one game in 2022 and 2021 and 2022 of 75% more the snaps or more. And Jerome Ford had that last week. And then that all changed this week. They used D'Onta Foreman a lot more. D'Onta Foreman had 27 snaps to Ford's 32. They split early downs. D'Onta Foreman got the two goal line carries, and Jerome Ford got the third down stuff. So that's not great because you want him, he'll still be usable. It's just his ceiling is no longer, potential top 15 guy. It's kind of a low end RB2. And if he doesn't catch the ball like he didn't this week, you're probably going to be disappointed. Good rush average, but he needs to catch the ball if he's not going to get the goal line carry. So, and I think this is how the Browns, I don't think they're going to change it up, how their philosophy. So do you think they're going to continue with these kind of the 1A, 1B running backs there, Dad?
Probably. I think so, because it's kind of been that way for a while. And, you pointed out even with Chubb, just remember Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Sorry about that. And, but then Chubb, the difference was Chubb would start dominating in the second half. Yeah. And then, but anyway, these guys, Jerome Ford, we 1A, 1B, I think that tells you right there. So,
Yep. And and hopefully they'll be in better game situations and stuff like that. I still think Ford's going to be like a flex worthy low end RB2 guy. Just not as excited as I was after last week. Jackson Smith in Jigba, 16 targets, 12 catches, 117 yards. This is what we had been waiting for all since last year. This is the player that the reason why he was drafted as the number one wide receiver back in 2023. And his role has expanded this year. That's the big thing. Again, the role it's not a fluke, I don't think. He is the leader in two wide receiver sets. He's out there in two wide receiver sets. Lockett was limited and things like that. I think he was injured heading into last week, which made kind of weird about Lockett scoring last week or, doing well last week. But it seems like Lockett's the clear third. Also, this didn't come at the expense of DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf himself had 14 targets, 10 catches, and 129 yards himself. So this is the offense we were hoping for. Just heavy targets to JSN and Metcalf. And Lockett, thank you, but you're a little bit older, and we want to get the ball into the hands of just these players a little bit more upside. So Jackson Smith and Jigba, for me, if you play in any 3 wide receiver 12-team leagues, I'm starting them. Do you agree there, Dad?
Absolutely. And I was kind of shocked that the Seahawks in the offseason re-signed Lockett because I thought they would move on and then, move away and, start getting JSN into it a little bit. One thing to point out on Seattle is their number one running back was out. So they threw the ball more. I know Metcalf had a big game. JSN had a big game. So,
yeah.
I'm not sure about Charbonneau was okay. I mean, I think he was right around 50 yards or something running the ball. But
he put up good numbers. He had 40 yards on the ground. He wasn't efficient. 40 yards on the ground, touchdown, but he had 5 catches and 30 yards. So
that helps.
Yeah. We have a second 2 weeks in a row. Javonte Williams is on our bad list. Although he did have 5 catches for 50 yards, but 11 carries for 17 yards. What did you want to say about Mr. Javonte Williams?
The 5 catches kind of bailed him out. I think depending on how your league is scoring, he's still I know he was double-digit fantasy points. It's like, but the 11 for 17, it's like, man, what is going on here? is he that bad, or is Denver's? I know the quarterback situation isn't ideal and stuff like that, but 11 carries, 17 yards, offensive line. Do you guys stink that much? And yeah, I don't know. That's not good. I was hoping that this guy, he's in his last year with Denver and stuff like that, and I was kind of hoping that he would have an okay year, So, but
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, we're not starting off really well. Is just all I was going to say.
No, we're not. And, that could be the limitations of the offense overall and not necessarily in Javonte. One thing I will say, and why he made the loser list last week, was his usage. And he was being used as basically like a little bit more than Samaje Perine. This week, actually, which is why it's always important to, the box score and the points is what matters. What points are you giving me? But also to look at the usage to see, is this a trend, or is this just like, well, I could see it. This was more of I don't expect this to happen every week, either positive or negative. He kind of dominated the backfield. He had 40 snaps to Jaleel McLaughlin's 17. He was dominated 2-1, the early down stuff. He was the short yardage back. He was the third down back, and they basically split 2-minute drills. That's what we want to see. This is what we want to see for Javonte. So if the Broncos, which might not be very often, if they can have a good matchup and a good game offensively, just a decent game, Javonte could actually be pretty good. He might be very matchup based. So keep that in mind. It is a negative though, because he's on the Broncos and they just don't look very good. They look like a team with a rookie quarterback. So another repeat on the good side is Sam Darnold. And the reason why I'm putting him back on here is because he played the Giants week 1. And we were all very hesitant, like, well, it's the Giants. Like, come on. It's like the 33rd team or something like that, or, defensively especially. Well, he played the 49ers this week, and he threw for 270 and 2 touchdowns, and also 32 yards on the ground. Fantasy-wise, one quarterback, I'm not saying you should be starting Sam Darnold, but this is very, very positive for all the pieces that we like on the Vikings. Justin Jefferson, Addison when he comes back, Hawkinson when he comes back, even Jalen Naylor if he's going to be the wide receiver 2 while Addison's out. Aaron Jones, Ty Chandler, whoever's in there that we're starting on the Vikings, I think we can be confident that for the most part, they're going to have a good offense and that they're going to have maybe a top 15 offense and Sam Darnold can move the ball. It shows you what good coaching can really do. So I'm excited about Darnold and just, in terms of for Superflex, I love him, and just for supporting the offensive pieces on this team. So anything you want to touch on with Mr. Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I think he deserves recognition again this week and stuff like that. And they beat the 49ers now. But now isn't Jefferson injured?
They said it's not serious. It's a quad injury, but they said it's not serious. But we don't know yet. That is a bad thing for sure. That's not great.
Well, yeah, and I think Addison is out too. So we'll see how this continues on. So hopefully it does. Is Sam Darnold fantasy relevant? Yeah, it depends on how deep your league is and stuff like that. I'd say right now, yeah. If you need a quarterback and he's there, I wouldn't hesitate to pick him up.
Yeah, maybe during like bye weeks and stuff like that, especially if he's going to give you, and he's always been able to do this, 20, 30 yards on the ground. So I do agree we need Jefferson out there. This might all look kind of ugly. So because Jefferson's amazing. But hopefully that's not the case, and hopefully Jefferson's not hurt there. I added a bad here in Christian Kirk, back-to-back weeks now. 3 targets, 1 catch, -1 yard. He did have a touchdown called back on a shift or a pick play. I forget what it was. But now what we're looking at for the first 2 weeks of the season is Christian Kirk with 7 targets, 2 catches, 29 yards. So he's averaging 3 targets a game, a catch a game and 15 yards a game. And I was worried about this. I was very excited about Christian Kirk back in July, June, right? And then I started to get worried in terms of how he was used in, kind of only being the slot receiver. And now he was used a little bit more. He was limited to three wide receiver sets for the most part. But why we draft Christian Kirk is for volume, and he's a guy that's just not getting volume. So Brian Thomas looks to be like the real deal there. Gabe Davis is starting 90 like he did with Buffalo. He's out there 100% of the snaps because he can do things like stretch the field and block in the run game. I'm worried about Christian Kirk. Like, I'm not saying cut him unless you play in a shallow league, but he's definitely on the bench until I see something, maybe for a couple weeks in a row. So what are you feeling about Christian? It's just the Jags offense once again.
Yeah,
it's not doing it.
Man, I think of all the bullshit. Sorry for the BS, but all the baloney that we get fed about Trevor Lawrence. A generational quarterback and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it's not easy, man. It's not, and you think the right quarterback, they got the right players, the right mix of players, wide receivers, tight end, all this stuff, and, and coach and, Super Bowl winning coach. And they don't look right. Something's missed. Something ain't happening there. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's just not. And you can always point to other things. Oh, like the receiver's foot was out of bounds when he caught it. But at some point, you just got to look at what's the commonality here, right? And this feels like the Chargers last year, where like every coach that doesn't have a job out there right now says, I want this job. You have a quarterback locked up. I can do something with him. Like, come on. Like, if Sam Darnold can throw for 270 and 2, like, let's get Trevor Lawrence. Come on. He needs to be there. Like, he needs to be there. So, by the way, Evan Ingram was not in this game, and Christian Kirk still only got 3 targets. That's even double concerning because, he seems to be he would be the candidate to kind of fill in those Evan Ingram targets. So, I put Chris. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just looking at the Jacksonville wide receivers. There was only 6 targets to wide receivers, and targets. Sorry, skip that. I was looking at the wrong column.
Wasn't a lot of volume, though, for sure. You're right. Brenton Strange had 5 more. He out-targeted Christian Kirk, like the backup tight end. So, yeah, not exciting. I put Chris Godwin on the good list now. Like, Chris Godwin is now, to me, he's in the must-start. And we talked about this when we talked about the Buccaneers, and me and Brian talked about this, like, kind of want to buy low on Chris Godwin because he moved back to the slot. And you look at Chris Godwin's catch percentage in his career when he was good, it was in the 70s, low to mid to high 70s. His 3 years with like Brady, it was like 77%. And then he played outside last year and it dropped all the way to 64%. And now he's back in the slot and he's caught 94% of his passes because he's getting easier targets. He's getting easier targets. So
he looked good. I watched the Lions game, of course, and Godwin was money. He was, especially in the first half, he was really good. So, I would always start this guy. I had to, the whole slot and on the outside, that was 1 year, I think, wasn't it?
Yep.
So
just 1 year.
hopefully we're over that and put him in a position to succeed.
Yeah, he's been awesome. He's wide receiver 1 on the year in half PPR.
Oh, wow.
First 2 weeks. Yeah. So
pretty good.
Yep. He's averaged almost 20 points a game. 8 targets a game, 7.5 catches, 100 yards and a touchdown. So yeah, he's been awesome. I'm excited. I think it's going to continue too. Like, Baker looks legit. So Matthew Stafford, you put as bad here. A lot of things bad for him. Only 216 yards passing, no touchdowns. This team is just devastated by injuries. Like, man, Kupp, Puka, offensive line. Like, so what did you want to say about Stafford?
Yeah, well, you just yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Three fifths of your offensive line got hurt.
Yeah.
Is it week one or going into week one or coming out of week one? And, that's, backups just don't perform at the same level in the offensive line, man. And the Rams, they need all their pieces and parts. If you don't have Cup, you don't have Puka, I mean, it's not going to work out very well for you. And that's what's happened here. Stafford's not the type of quarterback now. He might have been at one time, or he kind of was, where he can lead the team, and overcome that stuff, and get all the other wide receivers involved, but not happening. It didn't happen. Yeah. So
I was excited about Stafford coming into the year because I thought he was going to have to be throwing the ball to Puka and Cooper Kupp. Those guys are gone by halftime of week 2, both of them. Cooper Kupp, we don't know the extent of it. Puka Nacua is going to miss 6-7 weeks. Like, I'm fine to move on. I'll cut Stafford for Baker. I'll cut Stafford for Derek Carr. I'll cut Stafford maybe even for Sam Darnold. As crazy as it is, I just don't see this working out very well, and it sucks. It really does suck because I thought they're going to be a good team, and they might not be able to overcome these injuries. So we got 3 more here. The Saints. I put Derek Carr in here, but this is more just about the Saints overall. Like, the first team, I think they're the third highest points scored in the first 2 weeks in the NFL history, over 90 points. They have Derek Carr is not really throwing the ball much, but he threw for 240, 2 touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown. I think he only threw it like 20 times again. He's not throwing the ball that much. Yeah. 16 attempts and 23 attempts in the last 2 weeks, and only 30 completions, but he's being very efficient. This is a new offense with Clint Kubiak, who comes from the San Francisco system, San Francisco, Rams, McVay, Shanahan, disciples. These are the guys we want to target. And this offense looks to be just hitting the ground running. Now we'll see. It was against, we were hesitant because week 1, it was against the Panthers. Then they did it against the Cowboys. Teams do adjust and figure things out. So, but at right now, you're looking at just like smash start after smash start with these guys, right? Derek Carr, you can argue to be a starter for you. Taysom Hill, when he's healthy, you can start. Chris Olave, you're obviously starting. Rashid Shaheed, it's time to say, like, you're probably starting this guy in 3 wide receiver leagues. Like, now we're not just looking at like a pure boom bust guy, but he's booming every week. So
looks like Tyreek Hill, if you ask me.
Yeah, Alvin Kamara is an obvious start, maybe the best running back in fantasy football this year. There's a chance that Alvin Kamara, he's RB1 by a wide margin. So this whole Saints offense, do you think it's legit? Do you think they're going to come back down to earth a little bit?
I think they're looking good. Somebody might figure them out defensively, a team or something like that. But they to win a game, kick the Cowboys' ass, which is I like to say thank you, Saints. To win a game like that and not have to throw the ball as much as you did means you're dominating in other areas. Running game. Maybe defensively, maybe a special teams play and stuff like that. So that's good, and that's how football should be played.
Yeah. Yep. So they're fire here, and then 2 bads. Being worried about Isaiah Likely, and I was very hesitant about spending all my fab if you play in a fab system. Unlikely. Now, I'm not saying we should cut him or anything, but 3 targets, 2 catches, 26 yards. And again, it's the usage. They're not using as many 12 personnel, which is 2 tight ends on the field. They ran 40 in week 1, 12 personnel. So they had Likely and Andrews on the field, most of them, in 40 of their plays, compared to only 21 this week. So they played a lot of 11 personnel. And they played a lot of, 2 running backs as well, 21 personnel. So, and likely he's not out there. It's going to be Andrews out there. So that's concerning. I don't really, and that's the concern when you talk about backup tight ends, second tight ends on the team is, especially with the tight end position, it's more about, are they going to be on the field and being used in that way? And so likely I'm not, if I can avoid starting, I will. Now, if I'm going to get these boom games, if he's going to show me every 2-3 games, he's going to put up these huge games, then I'll probably just start him. But, we could just be a little bit like, sorry, we got excited week 1 and kind of a fooled you. So, and then I'll get to my last one, unless you want to say something on.
No, I mean, you kind of nailed it right there. So, unless Andrews gets hurt or, I did see one play at the near the end of the game where likely was just barely out of bounds. So, I mean, that's only one catch. So that's just one play. But
yeah,
so
yeah, he basically ran a route on less than half of their passing plays. And you want to be north of 75% if you're going to be fantasy relevant, receiver or tight end. So if you're under half the routes run, you just don't have the opportunity. You just don't. So, and then last one here is Michael Pittman. We didn't talk about him last week. This is more about Anthony Richardson than anything. He looked bad throwing the ball, Anthony Richardson, and like really bad. We're talking about a guy, Pittman. He has 15 targets the last 2 weeks. And if you look at how many times Richardson's thrown the ball, that's actually pretty good numbers. He's thrown the ball 53 times, right? So, you do the math and 15 divided by 53, you're looking at a 28% target share, which is great. The problem is he can't hit the broadside of a barn with these slow slants, and like Pittman's going to struggle. He's going to struggle all year because he's not going to get touchdowns. The touchdowns on this team seem to be coming from deep targets or Anthony Richardson or Jonathan Taylor around the goal line. And Pittman's not going to get either one of those. So now you're talking about, okay, well, can he give me 7 for 70 each week? Well, when Anthony Richardson is completing less than 50% of his passes, then no. The answer is no. 15 targets, but 7 catches. So you're talking about less than 50% catch percentage for Pittman, and that's mostly on Richardson. So I'm very worried. He's getting short targets, short area targets. His average depth of target is 10.8, which isn't terrible, but his yards per reception's at 7.5. So I'm worried about Pittman because I don't see the touchdowns coming, and I don't see huge PPR numbers coming. So concerns with Pittman for yourself?
Yeah, the guy is a volume. I mean, he's kind of been known as a pretty high volume receiver with sprinkled in with a few touchdowns. So, but if he's not getting the ball in volume, and 3 catches is not volume, not a good volume, I mean, he had over 100. He had about 110 catches last year or something, 105 or something. So yeah, there's concern, definitely.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So that is it for the week 2. I'm sure we missed some out there. We're not going to touch on everyone, but we're not going to touch on the obvious. The obvious. Oh, this guy had a good week. You drafted him to be. Breece Hall was RB4 in the week. Well, we drafted Breece Hall to be RB4. So let us know in the comments if we missed any good or bad performances or guys that you're worried about or not worried about or excited about. So let us know, and we will see you all in next week's video.